Hello, welcome to the Demand Gen Summit. My name is Pete Ketchum. I'm here with our host, Signals. Glad to be here with you. Today, we're going to be having a fireside chat with Joe Martin, CMO of Zeit. Introducing him, he is a Stanford University graduate and three-time CMO. How many years? I lost track of how many years of experience you have, Joe. Over 15,
Close
20?
to 20. Yeah, close to
Okay,
20.
there we go.
Getting old.
I kept scrolling on LinkedIn when I was seeing your background there in marketing. So a ton of experience here. Super excited to have you with us.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm thrilled to be here. It's always fun to chat and share some knowledge, pains and successes I've had. And hopefully that's helpful to anyone else looking to kind of navigate the interesting economy we have these days.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, excellent. Okay, well, without further ado, we'll kind of dive in here with some key questions that have been, I would say a lot of these have been in the mind of a lot of our audience. We see the kind of these questions coming up on LinkedIn. We see them in keyword searches. We see them in blogs coming up. So we'll answer some key things and get your unique insight on this. So my first question for you is to really kind of, you often the importance of leadership a lot in some of the writings that you've had. How has your leadership style evolved over the years, and what would you say are the key principles that are essential to effective leadership in marketing?
Sure. Yeah. So kind of the beauty of having a close to 2-decade career is that I've learned just as much from bad leaders as I have from good leaders, if not more. And that's kind of helped me frame how I like to lead people. Really, the biggest thing I think of is culture. You as a leader, even if you're at a larger company, you're gonna have the work culture, but also you're gonna have micro cultures within that. So you're gonna have different teams. Sales interact different than marketing and customer support and other areas. So you as a leader also need to set your team's culture and make sure people just understand that it's all about results. I think I am not a butts in seat 9 to 5 guy. I recognize that people have kids they may need to pick up from school or dentist appointments, or maybe they just need to take a break during the day and they want to log on at night. So I'm very much like, hey, here's our goals for the quarter. Here's what you're responsible for. And that's kind of your metric. Like, I don't, if you can get that done in less than, 40 hours a week, like that was set 60 years ago or 100 years ago now, the 40-hour work week. I like to have a structure myself, but I also recognize that not everybody's like that. So I set the example of a certain amount of time invested each day and each week. And then people kind of go from there. But I'm really supportive of people having life outside of work. And I think that's just part of culture. It's really just emphasizing developing people and recognizing that they have a family or other things they may want to be a part of.
I love that. I love that you brought up the uniqueness of the people that you not only work with, but in this case, when we're talking as well about the culture, we're dealing with cultures and throughout marketing, right? Marketing and sales, we're dealing with all kinds of different cultures, different people. And so I kind of want to kind of take that and pivot when we're talking about people and culture in the workspace. Let's talk a little bit about demand generation, right? So successful demand generation plays, I'd imagine you have to take that into account, but what demand gen strategies have you found to be most successful at your current place of business, Zeit? And can you share any specific examples with maybe some campaigns that stood out?
Yeah, for sure. So that's the kind of the piece of marketing. Is like, it's pretty easy to see if people are successful or not. Like, there's clear metrics: leads, revenue, cost. Those are things that people are held accountable for. So I've kind of always had that as a part of my career. I thrive off of having those numbers and love kind of understanding them. Zeit, what it comes down to, and this is like across every company I've either led or been a part of, including Adobe and small startups and other things. It's really just understanding where your customers are. So when I was when I was CMO at a company called Scorpion, we helped a lot of small businesses like home services professionals, lawyers, those types of things. Those people want to show up on very localized listings. So when I search, I live in Utah. So if I search like plumber Utah, you want to, show up if you're a plumber in Utah. So their ad strategies are going to be very different than like an Adobe, right? So I think it's really understanding where you are and what is going to be effective. And we live in such a digital age that it should be measurable. Things like billboards and direct mailers, those things can be a little harder to track. So I don't like to do those if I'm a small business, I have a very limited budget. I really try and do things like on Google or Meta, things that are very trackable for me. Like I can see every lead that comes in, every cost that is happening. And it's not just like, well, we think that billboard worked or we think that magazine ad worked. But you don't really have any direct action that you can take on it. So I really love with small businesses focusing on that Google My Business profile, making sure you have reviews engaged, having a Facebook business page that you can use the tools there, and then just having like a small website presence that people can check you out. For slightly like larger companies like Zeit and Adobe and those types of things, I think you can be a little more aggressive with ad spend. Honestly, like it seems funny, but like TikTok has probably one of the best algorithms I've ever seen. And so if you can like find your niche on TikTok, it's not just younger people. There's a lot of interesting niches there. You can just explode virally. There's a company I was consulting with called ShedRx. And they actually essentially were built on TikTok. They had like one viral video and it like launched the business. So there's a lot of opportunity there for like organic content you create yourself. And then obviously the ad piece. And lastly, it's all about consistency. So like choosing your channel, where people are, be consistent. So you can't just say like, oh, we want to do SEO or we want to do social or we want to do this. And then a month in, you're like, that's not working. Marketing takes time, especially SEO, search engine optimization. If you want to do that, you need to plan on 9 to 12 months of blogging and fixing your website and making sure it's tailored to what people are searching. With social, you need to build a community. You need to like ask people to follow you that are customers. Those types of things really take some investment of time versus like paid ads. You can kind of just immediately turn the dial on.
Love it. Love it. Thank you. So I'm going to kind of recap what you just said there. So not only examples of demand generation, but some of the benefits you mentioned too was that you want to make it trackable. You want to be able to track the data so you can then make those improvements. So you can iterate, because then you said later, it takes time. It's a time game with it. But you also want to cater to, and I think your second point that I captured from that was you want to cater to your audience of what a small business, medium or large business might be, who you're trying to attract through your demand gen strategies are going to greatly affect what channels and what avenues you're using. Did I hit those 2 points?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And there, I know it can be complicated to set up, but Google especially has lots of free tools that you just kind of have to, you can watch some YouTube videos and set it up. I mean, I've done it myself without like an agency or a consultant. Watch some YouTube videos, set up tracking and make sure it's all there. That's actually how I learned digital marketing. I was in college. I was like, I kind of need to figure out, this is 20 years ago, right? Digital marketing was just starting. I was like, I really want to figure out Google Ads and analytics. So I created a blog. I put all the tags on there and I spent like $5 a month. That's all I could afford. And that's how I taught myself digital marketing.
I love it. That is awesome. I mean, that is where some of the greatest stories are told. There's that early grind and that scrappiness that comes out comes out
Totally.
in that time. Well, hey, so a couple things that came to mind, and this was a question that I heard a couple weeks ago from some folks that we had been consulting with through Signals. Um, but when you're approaching some of these strategies, these plays, the tactics of marketing, and specifically into demand generation, how do you approach leadership? What have you found to be successful in saying, hey, we need to do demand gen and try to buy them into it? And then what are some of the challenges that you face personally when you kind of had those come up, and how'd you overcome them?
Sure. So I had a tweet that went viral that is still making the rounds on LinkedIn. It was like 6 years ago that I sent this out, and it said, "Marketing is great because everyone knows how to do your job better than you do." Um,
I've read that. I have seen that. I have seen that before.
it's still like I still get tagged on it, so it's obviously made an impact. But I think that's part of it. Is if you're a leader and you're not like the marketing leader per se, um, just have trust that you're hiring the right person, and hiring a partner. They're not just there to burn money. They're invested in the business. They want to reduce costs. They want to get customers efficiently. And then if you're the one actually leading marketing, it's really as simple as having a plan and executing on it, and then tracking the data. So marketers these days should be very accountable for numbers, because we just talked about digital marketing. It's very transparent if you're being successful or not. It's not like the Don Draper days of, hey, look at us, we're on the TV. We're a successful marketing team. It doesn't work
Mhm.
like that anymore. It's about, hey, how many leads did you produce this month? How many customers did that turn into? Because leads can be garbage at times. How much revenue came from your business? What was a metric used a lot is called CAC, customer acquisition cost. That's something all marketers should be tracking. It's like, you need to know, that's kind of your efficiency metric. Are you acquiring customers at a rate that is less than what they're paying you? Because
Right.
obviously you need to make money off of the customers you're acquiring. So yeah, non-marketing leaders, trust your people, definitely give input. Like I said, everyone thinks they know marketing really well, so may as well throw out some ideas. And then marketing leaders, have a plan, execute on it, get buy-in, and then track everything.
Okay, so you said a lot of good things there, but one thing that kind of caught my attention that you said was track your data, even your leads to customers. And I think that's interesting because it's not always does every I'll just go out and say this, not does every marketer want to be accountable for the leads turning into customers. Merely the fact that, hey, I delivered leads, my job's done, right? And so that creates kind of the separation. It can create separation between marketing and sales. And so I think it's fascinating. I think it's really good too to point that out, that hey, marketing does follow the customer. You got CAC, you got how many of your leads turn to customers, all these other data points that you can track. What would you say out there to some of the marketing leadership, maybe even sales leadership, of when they're marketing's running these demand gen plays and these other strategies? How can the two communicate and work together and collaborate toward a common goal of growing the company?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they're under the same pressure, right? Like anytime I've ever been to a board meeting, it's like, if it's a 3-hour board meeting, it's 2 hours, 45 minutes on sales and marketing, and then 15 minutes on
Mhm.
product and engineering. And that goes to the fact that like most people feel comfortable talking about sales and marketing tactics, but maybe less so of like, well, we should use Java instead of C sharp, for
Yeah,
code. Like, right. So it's like most people feel a little more in their wheelhouse with sales and marketing. So I feel like they're both under the same pressure. So it really should kind of grow together. So the three kind of core metrics I love tracking are marketing qualified leads, or MQLs, appointment qualified leads, or sometimes sales qualified leads, so AQL or SQL, and then pipeline or revenue. Those are kind of the three that are wildly important for me as a marketer. And then it's just taking in the feedback from the sales team of where you can find some efficiency. So like any business out there, from $5 to $100 billion, your customers are your best asset for marketing. So that's for sales and for campaigns. So like investing in customer quotes, reviews, case studies, those things you can use for great marketing campaigns. And then also the sales team can use those for their sales decks. Because if I've learned anything too, it's like, this was especially at like Scorpion, where I was working with small businesses, a personal injury lawyer does not want to see a quote from a criminal defense lawyer talking about Scorpion. They want to see a personal injury lawyer quote for their personal injury team. So like having case studies and quotes and things of how you've impacted a business or a customer, from every subvertical, if you're working in that type of business, or if you're working in customers, it's maybe like a regional thing. You know, people want to see people in their city talking about your company. Those are things that can really help sales and marketing. And then just getting feedback of like, hey, we did this webinar, how did those leads turn out? Hey, we did this event, how did those leads turn out? Hey, how are these? It looks like these Facebook leads are converting really well. On the marketing side, are they turning into customer opportunities on the sales side? So it's just kind of like a continual conversation, and then finding those efficiencies of where you can invest in certain pieces of content that help both teams.
Yeah, that's great. So the numbers that you like to track and we follow them, and these are pretty common, but sometimes it's easy to overlook and be like, it's not that big of a deal. MQL, SQL, the pipeline, but yet really know those numbers, really know the sources. Where did those MQLs come from? And really dive into those nitty gritty points. I think is an excellent point. The other thing that is really good that I love that you said is use your customer base as your marketing. Yeah. So use the customers. They've got the reviews. Use that as a guide to how you're marketing and you're selling. Great way to unify the two departments. So
it's also like with the reviews too, like the best messaging I've ever come up with was from reviews. Like you can brainstorm all day long of what you think customers want to hear about you, but just like look at your reviews for like 5 minutes and your customers will say like, I skipped so many meetings because I was using Zeit and it saved me so much time, or, you know, and then that suddenly becomes your tagline from a customer, which is pretty cool. And then also one other metric I didn't mention that is like my absolute all-time favorite is kind of an efficiency metric, but it's lifetime value over CAC to get that ratio. And that's, so lifetime value is, you know, if you have a repeat customer, how much they're actually going to end up being over the life of your time as a customer, and then divided by CAC, how much it costs to get them. Anything above a 3 is like invest more. Marketing is doing really, really well. Anything below that is like, hey, be cautious, you know, drill into your data a little more, understand what's working and what's not. But that's like one of my favorite kind of ratios.
Oh, that's excellent. That I can see how that'd be super helpful. Okay, so we're coming up on some time here, but I do want to get your insight on kind of where we're at, trends, future outlook. Economy's rough. Sales are down for a lot of companies. A lot are either in hiring freeze or the spend is not there. They're tightening up on their tech stack of what they're using. So I want to get your input a little bit here. Where do you see as the future of demand generation? What are some emerging trends? What's kind of coming out that's going to help propel some of the leaders within demand generation?
Yeah, I mean, number one is obviously AI, right? Like that's pretty much what everybody wants to talk about. So I think you can definitely utilize a tool like ChatGPT to an extent, I would not use it for long form blog posts. It definitely sounds robotic after a while. But if you want to use it to like improve your messaging versus paying a copywriter, if you want to use it for like some landing page copy and then edit it, the nice thing about it is it's way easier to edit than it is to create. So it gives you a nice like starting point, and then you can kind of invest some time in QAing and improving there. So there's obviously AI as a piece of that. Also, never sleep on like automation. That's kind of like email automation, life cycle, drip campaigns. Those are all the buzzwords for it. But like I can't tell you how many times that I've filled out a form, which I'm a marketer, right? Like it takes a lot for me to fill out a form. Like I'm like, do I really want to fill this out and get bugged by a salesperson for the next, 6 months?
Sure.
I'll fill out a form and I won't get anything. Like I won't get a confirmation email. I'll get nothing. And then I'll just move on. Like, okay, I didn't get anything from these guys. I'll just move on. So it's really important to have like those automation triggers with email where it's like, hey, they filled out a form, hit them with this message, and then for the next month, hit them with these pieces of content. Be surprised at how many leads come back, warm up, whatever. Not everybody is at a point of sale that reaches out to you. They might be researching, and that kind of helps bring them down the funnel as we talk about it in marketing. So automation and AI are very great tools that can kind of reduce workforce if you need to, and still have the quality.
So that's excellent. So you brought up a lot of, it seems like tactics and tools that you can use, the automation, the plays, the importance of that. Any specific strategy that you're seeing in collaboration with some of these tactical things that you can do, kind of a strategy that you're seeing in demand generation space or relevant to it that you're like, wow, that's kind of killing it right now?
I wouldn't say there's like an enormous trend per se. I think the biggest thing with marketing that people get lost in is trying to do too much. So like marketing 101 is the KISS principle, like keep it simple, stupid. I learned that as a 19-year-old in college. If you have one employee or you're the only employee, you can't be on Facebook, you can't be on Instagram, you can't be on TikTok, you can't be blogging, you can't have a website. Like focus on what is core and then build out from there. There's so many people that just like try and do everything, and then they end up having 5 social channels that are a ghost town, or they try and do Yelp and Google and Trustpilot or something else for reviews. And then you go to those places and they're like a weed-full garden. Like there's all these reviews that are negative maybe and have no replies to them. So it's like, keep it simple as much as you can. Don't overextend yourself with your resources you're able to handle. And don't be afraid to like kill a channel. If you're just like, you know what, I can't have a Facebook business page and Instagram. Kill Instagram, right? Like it's okay. If you can do all of them, great. But if you can't, kill the ones you can't handle, what's not being productive, and move on. That's that's tried and true. That's been around since the beginning. But I still think it's a principle that a lot of people, including myself, sometimes don't recognize.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard, right? Now, I don't mean to harp on this again, but you said in the beginning, and it's coming up again. That's why it's important to track the data and know your numbers. So hey, I'm splitting myself up, or we're splitting up the team too far in all these different channels. Where is the most benefit? Where's the most revenue coming from? Where's the highest conversion that we can focus our efforts on, right? I mean, it just comes back to me even clearer now that the analytics and the data you're tracking has got to be on point, so you know how to make these decisions.
With your team too, right? Like it's very demoralizing if you have a 2-person marketing team and you're telling them to manage 10 channels, and they're not hitting goals because they're too spread thin. Like just give them something simple and just let them crush it in 2 channels or 3 channels. don't spread them too thin.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Excellent. So with our closing thoughts here, Joe, and again, I appreciate all the time that you spent with us today and sharing your insights and your background. But as we're wrapping up, is there any final advice or thoughts that you'd like to leave with us?
Yeah, I mean, don't give up. Like, I think it's always coming to things like this and learning. That's like one of the biggest battles, is like trying to figure out what's new, what's upcoming. And we talked about a few things, in this, and I'm sure there'll be other sessions that talk about these things. But be willing to try new things, fail fast. There have been dozens of campaigns that I thought would be awesome and failed miserably. But they led to new campaigns that were great. So it's like, celebrate the failures and improve on the success, and just kind of like find your niche and just keep going really deep on that.
Excellent, excellent points. Thank you so much, Joe, CMO of Zeit. Thanks so much for joining us at Demand Gen Summit. There will be continuation of other presentations throughout the day, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks.